Now we're going to do the next thing. We're going to schedule a meeting that I'm going to have in advance, and we're going to allow it to create a unique ID just for that meeting. So watch me do that now. So I've been so far in my profile. When I clicked my account, it took me directly to my profile. We could look at the meetings that I have scheduled. We could look at the webinar level. I don't have the webinar level. You can upgrade to the webinar level like permanently, or you can just add it one at a time for one webinar if you want that like one time. Very flexible with what you could do with Zoom. Really like it. I could look at the recordings that I have in there, and there's a million settings in here, guys. We spent almost 50 minutes just looking through the settings. Not quite, but we got lost in them a little bit. I learned new things too. Just moments ago, before the show went live here, all the stuff that's embedded inside these settings. I'm not going to go into that today because it does get complicated, and some settings you can have when other things are not, and I learned a lot doing that. But today we're going to go ahead and schedule a meeting. So I'm going to click on this button right up here at the top called Schedule a Meeting. And we're going to go ahead and create a meeting Chrome plugin for Zoom. Wow, that's cool. Schedule your Zoom meetings directly from Google Calendar with the Chrome plugin. That's brand new information. I have not seen that before. It wasn't here yesterday. So that's cool. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe we'll do that another time. We'll do that another time. Okay, good. So I'm going to schedule a meeting for today. I'm teaching a small class today on using LinkedIn for your business. If you're interested in joining us, to anyone who's live, you can join us today at 3 o'clock for that. I think it's 3 o'clock. I better check my calendar. I'm going to check my calendar to make sure that I'm setting it for the right time. Yep. Okay, so right here, we're going to put Todd's LinkedIn training. Todd is who is hosting our event today, and I'm going to put in the topic, and then I'm going to go ahead and put in the date. It's today, the 25th. It's going to be at 3 p.m., just like this. You can set a duration for the meeting. Now, I believe that our meeting, it's supposed to only be a 30-minute call, but I'm going to put an hour because I'm going to be available for an hour during that time. You are not limited to whatever you set in this field. You could set 30 minutes here, and then you could go for 2 hours, if your account level allows that, of course, right? But what I'm saying is whatever you put as the duration, you're not limited to that. Also, the start time, you're not really limited to that either. For example, Linda, a couple days ago, we did a call and she wanted it to start at 12:15. Well, you can't put 12:15 right here. There's only the top of the hour and the half hour. But it doesn't matter. You could put 12 and then you could start the meeting at 12:15. So this is really more to help you with your schedule, and there's a way to copy this to your calendar, which I'll show you in a minute. So just do your best to set that start time and the duration of the meeting, but no, you're really not locked in to either one of those, okay? So I'm going to put 3 p.m. and I'm going to put that it's an hour. I could start it at 2:50, 2:55, and we could go for 30 minutes, right? Or an hour and a half, and it really doesn't matter. Does that make sense? Are you following? So I'm just going to set these here the best I can right now, but no, we're not really limited or restrained by that. Okay, Pacific time, that's where I am. Recurring meeting. By the way, I'm not putting anything in the description field. No one's ever going to see this. We're going to do two things. We're going to create the meeting here inside of Zoom so that I can get that unique meeting ID, and then I'm going to copy it over to my event calendar, my actual Google Calendar, and that would be something that you could add people into, and then they could see those details, if that makes sense. I'll show you in a minute. I'll show you. So let's see. Today, 3 p.m., 1 hour. Let me take you through a couple of the other settings. This one right here is asking if you want registration to be required. I typically do not use that option because I do registration some other way. They're signing up through an email list or through a social media something or other, or it's for a private group, and that organizer is going to send out the link only to the participants that can have it. So I don't need to use this registration field, so I'm not. The next question is meeting ID. Do I want to use my personal meeting ID or do I want it to go ahead and generate one for me? In this case, I want it to generate one for me. I want a unique number just for today's event at 3, and that's it. Require meeting password. If you want to, you can require your participants to have a password or enter a password. I typically don't put the password field in because I feel like it adds another layer of complexity that's just not needed for what I do. I don't want there to be any other obstacles for people to get into the calls that I do, so I typically never put a password on it. But it's possible, and it's possible to embed the password directly in the link that you send to people. And theoretically, that makes it very easy for them to join. You've given them the link, they click it, it puts it in for them, and they've connected. So there is a way to make it to still use a password and make it more easy for them to use. But again, I'm not going to put a password on this. This is only going to be given to the people that we want to join the call anyway. Does that make sense? So there you go. And as the host, you can always kick people out of the meeting or mute them or whatever you want to do. So you have max control about people joining your call or not. Okay, let's get into some of these meeting options. Oh, I skipped. Oops, this scrolled down. Okay, so the next section is the video and the audio controls. So by default, I like to put the video settings as off. I want it to be off for the host and I want it to be off for the participant. I just think it is a better practice if everyone's video camera begins off and then you manually choose to turn it on and join the room. I've heard stories of people joining rooms they're not ready for, they didn't know their camera was going to come on, and they are embarrassed at the result. So I just find it better to do it this way. I turn off all the video, and then when I start the meeting, I can turn on my camera right away if I want to, if I'm ready for that. Maybe I don't have the web cave background up yet. I could actually start the call, start talking to you, and then fix my background and blah, blah, blah before I actually turn on the camera here for you. Okay, so that's what this means. Off for the host and off for the participant. That's how I like it. And then audio. You have the option of allowing your users to join the audio by telephone, by computer, or both. I typically leave it both, even though typically the people I'm working with are on the computer only. But I don't see any problem with leaving that telephone connection there. I've seen people have to use it for whatever reason. The computer didn't work for them, and they immediately picked up their phone and dialed in with the audio on their phone and the video on their computer. And guess what? It still worked. So that's a solution. So again, I like the video off and I like the audio set to both. Okay, let's get into some of these meeting options. The first item is enable join before host. So what does that mean? That means that would you like your participants to actually join the meeting and be able to communicate with each other in the meeting before you get there? Typically, I don't have a problem with that. I leave this checked because I want people to be able to join the meeting. I think it helps them know that they're in the right place, even if someone else isn't there. But I don't know. I could just be making that up. It does tell them when they join it and the host isn't there, it does have a message like, please wait, the host hasn't started the meeting, or something like that. Typically, for most of the meetings I do, I leave this enabled. I want them to be able to join it. It's no problem. You have the option to mute participants upon entry. If you were doing a group call with a group of people, I would recommend having that option selected so that when people first come right into the room, their audio is muted and then they can unmute themselves. I think that's a best practice. Enable waiting room. Now, this is an interesting feature. What you can do is you can create what they call this waiting room. And when the average user joins the call, they're placed first into this waiting room, whereas you're placed into the actual live room, if you will. Now, what this allows you to do is bring in certain people on a select basis to have kind of a pre-conversation. You can kind of think of it like the green room before the meeting actually gets started. So all the participants, let's say all the 100 participants, can be funneled into this waiting room, and then I could log in as the host, and then I could pull in Garrison, and I can pull in Linda, and I can pull in Betty, and we could have our own quick powwow, with our own little team here before we open it up and allow everyone else to come in. So that's the purpose of the waiting room. Really cool feature if that's something that you need. If you want to be able to park your participants somewhere while you have your own chat as a team, then you'll want to enable the waiting room. Only authenticated users can join. I think I know what this means. I think it means that you have to have signed up at least for your own free Zoom account. Because when you do that, they send you that little email that says, is this really your email? And then you click, yep, it's really me. And then it goes back into the system. Have you seen that? Have you done that when you sign up for a website? So I'm assuming, this is a guess, I'm guessing that that's what that means, that they have to be an authenticated user through the Zoom system, which just means that they've signed up for their own account, is what that means. It could be a free account. So that could be an option that you want selected or not. Again, I'm helping people with all levels of technology experience and understanding, so I don't have that selected because I want people to join my rooms that don't already have their own Zoom account, but you may want something different. So that's what that check mark is, I think. Breakout room pre-assign. Now, this is the first time I've seen this little checkbox on here because I just discovered before the call started that you can either use the breakout rooms or you can use the remote control feature. And I have always used the remote control feature, which allows me as the technician to request to my user, would you like them? It asks the user if they would like to grant me permission to drive their computer. So the reason I use this is for a tech support scenario where I'm at my computer here, my client is at their home or office, we've connected together through Zoom, and then they turn over their computer to me basically so I can drive it. And then I can help them with whatever it is we're working on together. Now, this is totally permission-based. I can't do this without that person's permission. They have to actually say, yes, I know CJ, and it's totally okay that he go ahead and drive my computer for a few minutes. And you can take that away at any time, too. So that's the feature that I've used previously. Remote control is what it's called. Or maybe they call it remote access. It's one of those, remote something or other. Basically, it allows me, the technician, the computer technician, to help you remotely on your own system. But just a few minutes ago, I turned that feature off because I wanted to see this other feature, which they call breakout rooms. Now, breakout rooms is something that I know about, but I've never actually played with before. But what it allows you to do is create little individual rooms so you can send people in there for an individual conversation. So let's say we have 50 people on the call, and maybe I'm leading a workshop. Maybe I'm doing a live Zoom workshop on your website, and after we talk about your goals and your target market, I want you to work in small groups to discuss what your goals are for your website and who's your target market. So if we had 50 people on the call, I could create 5 rooms of 10 people or 10 rooms of 5 people so that they could have a smaller interaction just with themselves. I've never played with that feature before, like I said, because I was always using the other one and I did not know they were mutually exclusive, but they are. So play with that with me sometime if you would. Maybe we'll play with that a little bit on tomorrow's call. I'm really curious to see how that works. So join us tomorrow, Thursday, for our virtual networking, and we'll play with that feature. And finally, the very last thing here on the list, record the meeting automatically in the cloud. Now, another thing I want to mention is another setting that we just changed in my account was the ability for the user to record a meeting to their own local computer. I'm gonna come back to that in a few minutes, but just know when I changed that setting, it changed this setting right here. And so now it's only giving me the option of recording the meeting automatically in the cloud. What that means is when the call starts, that is when the first user jumps on the call, could be you or could be them. Do you want the meeting to automatically start recording? Yes, I do. I do want that to happen. But you can always change it. You can pause the recording or you can flat out stop the recording. and then start it again. So that's what I do. I let it go ahead and record it right from the beginning, but then typically when I jump in, I can decide, do I want to leave it recording? Sometimes yes. Do I want to stop the recording right now or pause it so we can start it in a few minutes? Sometimes yes. And then sometimes I want to flat out stop it, never to start it again. And then sometimes I want to stop it and then intentionally start it again when I'm ready to start the show. Do you see how all 4 of those scenarios could be true for you? So I just let it go ahead and start recording. This is another thing that's interesting. Because I have the enable join before host option, and I have the record the meeting automatically option, if you send that link to someone and they test it out, you will get a copy of the recording they create when they test it in your room, which is kind of a cool thing to do. Betty and I did that once upon a time when we were fiddling around with Zoom on her computer to get it to work for her. We used my room as an example because I remembered it, because I know what my meeting ID is and I didn't even have to be there. We just used it. What I mean is I didn't have to be on my side. We were on her side. So anyway, it created the little recording automatically and I could send that to her later. Any questions right now in the moment for this, what we've done so far? Let me review. Right before I hit save, I gave a topic, Todd's LinkedIn training. It's going to be today at 3. I put for an hour. We're not limited to that time. We're not limited to that duration. And now I'm going to go ahead and I want it to generate automatically a unique meeting ID just for this one class. And then we're going to hit save. And I'm going to show you one more thing. Linda, I see your question down there. I'm going to come right back to it. So here we have, now the meeting has been created. It has generated that meeting ID. And if you want to go back and edit any of those details, you can. There's an edit button. If you're ready to start the meeting, you can use the blue button right there to start the meeting. It will also show up inside your Zoom software. There's a meeting tab inside the Zoom software where you can hit start on the meeting that you've pre-scheduled. So the final thing I want to do on this screen is I want to copy it to my calendar. So there's 3 options: Google Calendar, Outlook Calendar, Yahoo Calendar. I'm going to click Google Calendar. If you're doing this for the first time or you have multiple accounts, it's going to ask you which account to use. It's going to ask you to grant permission to Zoom to access your calendar. That's all totally okay because I want it to create the calendar event for me, and I want to just be able to hit save and have it save it to my calendar. Now, I already have this event on my calendar, so it is going to create a duplicate, but it's going to now embed the link for me to join the call, which I can send directly to people. And if I wanted to, I could also start adding guests right here into this screen, and they would get the calendar invite through Google, which includes, as you can see, not only does it include the link, the direct link to join the meeting, it includes the meeting ID if they want to punch it in manually. It also includes all of the phone number information if they want to join via the phone. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and drop Todd's name in there. Todd Brinkman. I think that's your right account. I hope so, because we're adding it now, and I'm hitting save, and I'm going to go ahead and hit send. So right now on my calendar, it added this meeting, and I went ahead and added Todd to it. And he's getting an email right now that says, CJ just created this event, 3 o'clock, here's the link. Now he can use this and he can use this and send this out now to his people to join our group. Okay, let's jump in and see what your questions are. All right, questions. Question from Linda. Wonder if it makes any difference if you or host doesn't hit stop recording. It just keeps recording, which is totally fine. If you want the full recording unedited, that's what you'll get. Now, I like to pause and stop because that gives me max control over when it starts. And what I mean by that is often we need a little bit of pre-show talk before the show gets started. So that's why I would pause it, or that's why I would stop it, so that when we were ready to start the show, if you will, then I hit start recording. So I know now it's beginning afresh. Can you invite people? Yes, Linda, you can invite them right through that Google integration that we were just looking at. That's the best thing to do, I think, unless they are a user in your account, and that's a whole different thing. We'll have to get into that another time. Betty is saying if you've downloaded that Chrome integration, you skip this step to manually add it to your calendar. Great point, Betty. Have you done that? Do you have that, and have you used that before? I'm curious. It's going to be a delay before her answer comes back to me, but that's what we were talking about a few minutes ago. Chrome was offering to download the Chrome extension to create a Zoom meeting. I haven't played with that yet, but you're right. What I imagine happens is all you have to do is create that calendar piece first, and it will add the Zoom piece for you. And I bet that's how it works. So we'll wait for confirmation here from Betty in just a minute to see if that is true. Yes, Betty says, I must have done that when I signed up for Zoom. It always does that for me. Awesome. Good. I'm glad. Correct, she says. Okay, good. So that's how it works. Great. The other thing that I use another service called Calendly. In fact, we talked about Calendly back in episode 2, about how to use Calendly as a tool for people to automatically schedule a meeting with you. And I know that Calendly integrates with Zoom. So someone can create a Calendly meeting with you, and automatically it can create a Zoom link for that meeting. So that's a pretty cool integration. It takes a couple extra steps to make that happen. But once it does, it's all automatic, which is the benefit of a lot of these tools. Do you need more help setting up something like this for your own group? I'm available for private coaching. How can you use this technology for your own benefit, for your business or your personal life? You could continue your own coaching, your own teaching, a mom's group, a church group, a business group, or another meeting online. Use the information I presented so far, jump in and do it. And if you have any extra questions, please reach out to me. I'm here to help you. We can work, for an hour, for 15 minutes, whatever you need to get the problem solved. I would love to help you integrate one of these solutions into your business, your personal, your church group, and make this a solution that works for you. Super important right now that we all stay connected. And I love this tool for doing that. We're going to have a little bit of freezing and popping right now. Popping and locking. CJ's going to dance. Go CJ. Go CJ. It's your birthday. It's not my birthday. My birthday's next month. Emily says my birthday might be canceled because of the virus. What do you guys think about a Zoom birthday party? You want to join me for a Zoom birthday party? We'll talk about that in a month. The internet's a jungle. Roar! Bye-bye for now.